think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts, Damian Bolt and Catherine Bramkamp.
Go ahead, spit out what episode it is.
It's episode 212 this week, and I'd like to apologize for last week. Say no more. No, that's
we're sorry, mostly.
Thank you for the tweets, though.
I'm not as sorry as you.
I know. Well, I'm feeling pretty sorry. See, it's affected me so much. I have a cold this week.
Oh, you're allergic to our guests.
No, well, I better not be. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Someone just opened the door and handed me a drink. If only that could happen all the time. Anyway, so, Catherine, how are you?
I am good. I am not suffering from a cold as you are, and my allergies aren't bad, so we're all going to say good.
I don't know. I should try and live up the Barry Whiteness today, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Or would it just be creepy if I went to the store and then as they're swiping my food through, we go, can't get enough of your love, baby. And then security arrives and all that sort of stuff. Anyway.
Right, and then security arrives.
Now, we have a very special guest on. We have Alan Leddon on. Alan, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Well, I think we've covered that. Not that good, but that's fun. Now, you are the big boss man of the publishing company that picked up our book, and we have you on to find out why.
Why am I in charge of the publishing company, or why did I pick up your book?
Why did you pick up the book? We'll get to the publishing company in a minute.
Because the book is awesome.
Because it's awesome. I like
There's at least one really good author involved, and it's a great topic.
Yes, good answer.
That would be the ghostwriter, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, right.
I wonder if that has ever happened, where someone's written a book and then they've submitted it, and the publisher's gone, "Look, needs a bit of work, but we've got an author that can rewrite your script for you."
Oh, I've never done it.
What do you reckon, Catherine? Do you reckon that's ever happened out there? And someone's gone, "Okay."
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You get somebody who says or I think what happens most often is somebody is already famous. They write a high concept book, and then the publishers bring in half a dozen people to craft it, put it together, and then the celebrity in question goes on talk shows saying, "Yeah, I wrote a book. Isn't that great?" And it's like, you look at the acknowledgments, it's 2 pages of people who have dragged this sorry project to completion.
That's why we got rid of the acknowledgments page.
Yeah, I think it is. I admit it's probably a good thing to get rid of it, and I did.
But yes. Well, what was it about Don't Write Like We Talk that appealed to you from a publishing point of view, Alan?
Well, it identified a lot of problems that writers tend to have, including myself, and it brings people's attention to these things so that you're aware of them when you're writing. It also describes the process of writing in very easy to understand and relatable terms. Like when you talk about the environment that the writer is sitting in while he writes, and how that has an effect. I can't write unless I am in a very cluttered area. I need a reclining chair with books near me, including reference books. I need a coffee cup near me. I need a lot of stuff around me so it feels actually kind of pressing in, or I can't produce good prose.
I'm a bit the same.
Cozy almost. So you need something that's cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much.
But does it get to a point where it's a bit too much? Like, I'm looking at my desk going, wow, I think I've been robbed because...
somebody trashed your office? Oh, no!
Yeah, and it's become a case of, I bought a projector home from work that needs looking at, and it's like, well, where can this go? Oh, that can go on the other laptop. So just piling everything up on top of each other now.
Yeah, that happens. You see, I like to have things fairly clean. I have a few things around, but I don't want too much mess because it's too distracting. So I see everybody's got their own system.
But that's interesting though, Because that means there's nothing that really fits then. You can't really say to someone, if you're going to write, you should set it up like this.
That's exactly right. That's
No,
exactly
what you have to do.
I think people really want to. People almost want a formula. That's just like you go to author readings, and people, new authors, will say, "Well, what kind of pen do you use? What kind of notebook do you use?" They want to know if there's like the magic talismans that you can set up that will make you immediately into a bestseller. I think that's a very natural desire to and question. I think it's a good question.
So, what are you going to say, Alan?
I was going to say that. Actually, I don't remember now.
Sorry.
Catherine. Well, let's wind it right back. Well, before you got into publishing, you're a writer. You got published books. How'd it start for you?
Well, I've always wanted to write. I was on my high school newspaper. I was on the newspaper for the Navy base I was assigned to. I was on my college newspaper. I started and discarded probably 40 or 50 novels when I was in high school. There's a game that I play where having some information beforehand is helpful, and I used to write big packets for that.
Dungeons
And
Dragons.
then a few years ago, I noticed that gas prices were getting to the point where, or petrol for you, prices were getting to where I couldn't afford them anymore, and I thought that there should be another stream of income. So I sat down and finally put a book together.
Oh, yeah.
And that became a lot of fun. It was interesting. I was very proud of my accomplishment. So I put out a bunch more.
Cool. So what was that
Then
first one about?
The first one, the title was Religion Laid Bare. It's a survey of the north of the equator bear cult all the way around the world, including polytheist deities who derive from the bear god and or the bear myth.
Right. That seems pretty heavy. Most people's first book would be, I don't know, dragons.
Romance.
Romance? God, I'd hope not. Jeez. So was this something then that interests you, like, fairly deeply with the paganism and Wiccan, that sort of thing?
Yes, actually.
Ah, interesting. Luckily, that way you won't be easily offended by me. Religion is a fascinating thing, and I don't want to get sidetracked with me whinging and moaning about it. So when you started to put this down into a book, then how did you go about doing that? Did you set aside some time? Did you research it 100%? How did it work?
Well, I started with an outline and a list of the topics I wanted to cover. And then actually, the very first thing I did was I looked to see if there was a similar book, and there wasn't.
There you go.
So I set out my outline. I made a list of topics to cover, and I started researching these things. Even if I felt that I knew them, I researched them further. How do we know about the religions of the past? It turns out that a lot of what we know is by looking at statues and interpreting the statues according to modern ideas. A person with a tall hat is more important than one who doesn't have one. So, like, a bishop today wears a mitre, a king wears a crown. These are ways of making yourself taller, or they're symbolic antlers. Many early gods throughout Europe and Asia had antlers. So a statue then that has a large hat or something else to make it taller is a statue of a more important person than one that doesn't. In Egyptian writing, in Egyptian pictographs, individuals who are important are drawn bigger than people who are not.
Right.
That's why the pharaoh is 3 feet tall, but the slaves working for him are 6 inches tall.
Right.
And that's why, I'm such a tall person. I think I need to have a top hat. What do you reckon?
And then you will be worshipped. Is that where we're going to go with this?
I am hoping so. So then, once you'd had this book sort of consolidated and you're happy with it, then what did you do? Did you ship it out to shop it around to publishers?
Well, the first thing I did was when I was about 2/3 done with it, I sent a description of what I was working in a query letter to Llewellyn Publications. And what I told them is I plan to make this book 105,000 words long. I want to talk about the mythology of bears and then the mythology of animals related to bears, such as honeybees, salmon, the ones that are scientifically related, like raccoons and olingos. And so I sent them this letter, and I get a response. We're interested in your book. Please stop it at 70,000. Please remove all the scientific information from it and replace it with material that will make the reader feel good about themselves.
Yeah, right.
Only if they're a bear.
So I went to a couple of others. I tried Red Wheel Windsor. They didn't have room in their schedule for me. And there were a couple more. And meanwhile, I'm writing magazine articles and making some decent money off that. And I wrote another book for a game that I play in once in a while, sent that in and got it published. And this told me, yeah, I can get published, just not by these people that have their preset ideas of what people want.
See, sorry, I was going to say, you're a little bit like me. I got into this by submitting a short story for a game that I tend to play, but unlike you, who was clearly successful in that, I just didn't get anywhere with it. It was bad, but hey, it allowed us to have our Bring Out Your Dead for about 3 months. Brilliant. That's
right. You were a big contributor to that.
So yes.
Well, I started thinking about the other possibilities, and there are a lot of books that I wanted to write, and I realized that it was more than can be written in a human lifetime. And I'm a fan of Isaac Asimov, so I know that a lot of books can be written in a human lifetime. So the idea of starting a publishing company hit me, and I researched that. And I went downtown and I paid the fee and got the license, borrowed $400 off of a friend, bought a block of ISBNs, self-published my book under the name of the company, started working on the next one, and put the name of the company out and what I was doing, and very shortly several people approached me. And they all had books, and I accepted a couple.
So, but then how, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to start a publishing company and just go and register the name. I mean, the business, you set up a company. But then what about all the inner workings of that? How do you find out how to do that sort of thing? I mean, it's almost like a little bit of black magic, I think. It's like, well, here's my manuscript, you edit it, and then what do you do with it? I mean...
Well, there's a positive result, so it would be white magic. You
know what I'm saying? Like, for me,
I knew part of it because, I'd been involved with the school newspaper, my base newspaper, my college newspaper. I learned some of it by publishing the game book with another company. And some of it, I just sat down and thought it through. We get the book. It needs to be edited. It needs a cover. It needs to go someplace where people can sell it. Then people who might want to buy it need to know about it.
So then what about the actual physical side of things, or was this more ebook related?
We started with ebooks. I even sold several copies of Religion Laid Bare on CD-ROMs.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we found, I started working with Smashwords.com, where you upload your file, you upload your cover, and they sell it in several different formats as an ebook.
Right. We've had
then I think it was my wife discovered Lulu.com, which works fairly similarly, but then they upload it to Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Kobo and a bunch of others. And that gets it worldwide as a paperback. And so those were the two we went with for a long time.
Yeah. Well, what about the physical side of things? If you wanted to publish a physical book, did you start ringing around printing presses and saying, "Hey, I need some books
No.
printed"?
In Wisconsin, before you can buy a printing press, you have to spend $700 on a environmental impact study, and then there's other regulations and other things you have to spend money on.
Mhm.
And then the press we want will cost just about as much as my yearly income.
Mm.
So that's why we went with Lulu.com, is because they produce the paperback physical copies.
Yeah.
They do print on demand.
Yeah, right. But
Which
isn't there another company that you could just contract it out to and just send them, "Hey, here's the manuscript. It's all done. I need you to print me, 1,000 books or whatever."
What they do is you set up an account and you put your manuscripts on the account.
Mm.
And when anybody wants it, whether it's a bookstore or an individual seller or whatever, they print the number of copies you want, the number of copies that are ordered. Now, I could put it on and they'll charge me $5 for a copy. They'll charge anybody else what I set. So I could set it at $10.
Mhm.
And somebody else buying the book then pays $10, I get $5. But I could buy a bunch of them at $5 a piece and then sell them at $6, $7, $8.
Yeah. So could you then just order a stack through them? They send you a box of them, and then you can then do that door-to-door bricks and mortar place. Go to a local bookstore and say, "Would you put this on the shelf? Here's the book."
You can do that. And some local bookstores would do it, take it on consignment. And I've got a couple books in a consignment shop now.
See,
Um,
I find this strange because I'm obviously the newbie, and I've mentioned it to Catherine before, and we've touched on it a little bit. But from your point of view as a publisher, how is it that the publishing industry can have a system where a bookstore can purchase a book, keep it on the shelves, and if they don't sell them, then they send them back? It's weird. Like, I try and think of it from my business. I purchase product, physical products. If I purchase it from a wholesaler, I need to sell that. If I don't sell that, tough luck. I can't go back to the wholesaler and say, "No one bought that projector. You can have it back." And you can then give it back to Epson because, well, clearly it's not being sold. How does this come about?
Well, a bookstore only has so much shelf space. It's usually measured in feet. So a store may have, say, 10,000 feet of shelf.
Hmm.
Each book that takes up part of that. It could be a 1/4 inch. It could be an inch. I've got a couple next to me that are 3 inches.
Hmm.
That shelf space is important to the bookstore. They have to have as much of that space as possible holding books that people will buy. They need to sell as many books as possible.
Yeah.
I just recently looked into opening a bookstore. It would have taken me $650 a day in sales to keep it open and bring in $1,000 a month.
Hmm.
So I would need to have books that will move quickly. If a book, say a 1-inch thick book sits on that shelf for a year, that's several sales that you've lost.
Hmm.
That's money you're not making. So in order to be competitive, your publishing companies and your print companies offer to take returns so that if that book doesn't sell in a certain time, you can remove it the bookstore can remove it without a loss, and they can stick a different book in there and hopefully make a sale off of that book.
Hmm.
So bookstores are more likely to go with the seller that will take returns than the one who won't. So it's just simply a matter of being a competitive distributor.
It's still strange, though, because at the end of the day, if you look at the bookstore as just an entity, it's just a business. It's purchasing stock to put on its shelves. It's no different than anything else. You take that risk. There's a little bit of a gamble that, well, I'm purchasing that product to display or to on sell. It may or may not. And that's where you get the discount, chuck them out for $1 type things. And it's no different in my industry where I can take that gamble of, well, hang on, I need to keep, I don't know, we'll pick a product, HDMI cables. I'm going to order 50 of them or 100 of them and keep them in our unit and sell them. But then all of a sudden they phase that out and I'm left with a big box of 100 that I've spent $20 per cable on. So, well, I can't now take them back to the wholesaler just because the rest of the world doesn't want them anymore.
But if you had a wholesaler that would offer you the chance to bring them back and get your money back, wouldn't you work with that one rather than the one that doesn't offer that?
Well, yeah, but it's also the thing of, I don't know, I've just not come across it in sort of any other industry, really. It seems to be very much that the publishing industry is down that road. I think it's a little bit unique.
Every industry has something different from all the others.
Mm.
And in the case of book publishing, taking returns is one of those things.
Does that then add a little bit of, well, there's a bit of risk then for the author, because the author could all of a sudden, or the publishing house could get just a big box of returns. And then what do you do with them? Burn them?
Well, I contract with companies that will send me the returns for the shipping price, and they eat the cost of the returns. Again, they're being competitive by offering this. So the only risk for me, and it's one that I've realized, is having a living room full of boxes of books.
This is the thing. Someone's going to have to hold that stock at some point somewhere without it.
Somebody has got it in their living room.
Yeah. So I get the feeling I'm going to have a box load of Don't Write Like We Talk.
Totally donated, right? But that's one thing that I like about print on demand is that you don't have those boxes of books. Now you can't do print on demand in a bookstore for the most part, but that's another piece of it. So you're not in it as a publisher. You're not saying, okay, I'm going to sink in thousands of dollars into these books in the hopes of selling them. You can say, all right, I put all this out. I put the information out. And when the book is sold, then we create it. And do you find that that's a more reasonable way of approaching publishing?
Yeah. I mean, think about this, okay? If I was to print my own books and sell them to whoever takes them, roll of paper is going to cost me $10,000. That doesn't count the glue. It doesn't count the spine. It doesn't count the cover. I can blow that $10,000 making copies of books, stick them in boxes that cost me money, stick them someplace to store them until somebody buys them. Mm-hmm. It's not terribly expensive to do it that way, if you have buyers. But small company like Caliburn, if we did this, we'd put these boxes someplace and they would sit, and I'd have to pay taxes or rent on the place where they're sitting. There's always the chance the roof leaks and I'm out hundreds of books at $5 a piece. That have to do additional work, not only running the print runs and putting them in the boxes and setting the boxes someplace, but also keeping records of them. Then marketing and selling them. This would put a small business out of business.
But can it also be on the other scale detrimental to big business? I'd say, for example, you've got someone that's printing Harry Potter, and they could almost guarantee that there'd still be X amount of sales. They can forecast that. So they're printing and printing, and all of a sudden that fad stops. And they go, oh man, we didn't anticipate this year that we're actually only going to sell 1 million copies, not 10 million. We've got a warehouse full of these books. I mean, it can be equally as just bad for them, couldn't it?
It could be. What sometimes happens in that case is the big publisher will take these boxes to, take these books to, say, Barnes and Noble or Half Price Books or one of these other distributors, and they end up on a table with a red sticker for $1 or $2 above what it costs to print the book.
Just to clear them.
Great way to torture an author, but also
I was going to say, you used to call that
a great way to not lose money.
I think, with these returns, I was saying before, someone's obviously got to hold them, and sometimes it can even be the author, like publishers, like here's your book back. Should set up a website called crapbooks.com, and you can submit, say, look, all these returns, and you just list them.
Leddon Publishing.
Hey, what?
Crapbooks.com. That leads to Llewellyn Publishing.
Does it really?
I don't know.
Let's try crapbooks.com. Someone's got to. It's a website. No, it's not. So I'll register that later today.
Okay.
Yeah, you could just then have a repository of books that have all been returned and go, look, buy them for $1. Cover the cost of the website.
Isn't that where used bookstores come in? I mean, wouldn't that be one of their models, is to pull some of those books and resell them?
Yeah, not all the books in a used store are used.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is why, and then as a reader and as a book buyer, then maybe I see something that I say, oh wow, it was always too expensive for me to buy, and now look at this hardback book for $3, score, and now I get it. So there's we have these secondary, third markets that I don't know are necessarily tracked, which is what's interesting too with the used bookstore situation.
I don't know.
Because no one gets money. I mean, if somebody buys our books at a used bookstore, we don't see any cash. I mean, that's what's interesting. But at least it's in someone's hands, so I take comfort in that.
And then you end up with garage sales. And like, you got a lot of books here. It's like, yeah, it cost me $1 for 500.
Yeah. And you just keep going. I mean, it is kind of the self-perpetuating product in that regard.
It's kind of odd, though. I mean, at the end of the day, it is only printed paper, but we seem to hold them quite dear. So if you have these returns and you've got a box of 20 books that you can't get rid of, you'd feel a bit weird if you burnt them.
Yeah. Yes.
A book is a lot more than just printed paper, or as some of my friends refer to them, tattooed tree corpses. A book is information, or it's a story. And think about how important stories are to us. Okay, we've created several industries, such as TV and movie, so that we can disseminate stories. Children want a story before bedtime. We sit around the campfire and tell stories. Our veterans, if you don't stop them, they will tell you stories all day. Stories are important to us, and books are a way that we put down stories in a format that people can read. And books and other forms of writing have a power that nothing else does. You can write a book today. People can read it today. And in 100 years, people can read that book again. Nothing else. Okay? If you watch a movie, it's gone. If you tell a story, it's gone. Writing, and that also includes saving information on a disk or whatever else, writing allows you to communicate across time and space. And you can get your story across time and space.
Do you think with digital media, though, like ebooks and that sort of thing, do you think the actual physical copy, the hard copy of a book, will eventually fade away? And like I think of at the moment, I read a story, or my boy, because he's now reading, will read a book every night. But then in 50 years' time, do you think they'll be holding up, or he'll be reading to his kids on a, I don't know, Kindle? Like, swipe to the right, next page.
Well, the equivalent of Kindle, I'm sure, will be there. But I have a book in my bedroom that was printed in 1850. One of the officers of Caliburn Press has several books that were printed in the 16 and 1700s. They can still be read. Yes.
But then, I mean, they didn't have Kindles back in 1800s.
No.
And I've got a few of those books as well. And and this is what makes me think. It's like, well, that's everlasting. But with the way things are going, do you think, though, that people will still print a book in, say, 100 years' time and say, well, we can keep this?
The material might be different. It might be some kind of plastic then.
Oh, yeah.
But many people enjoy the physical sensation of holding the book. Many people enjoy the smell of an old book.
Yes. There was...
and there's just something more satisfying about reading a physical book than reading it on the screen.
There was something I saw on Google Plus and posted up a picture. I think it led me to a website that someone had actually studied the smells of a book and how it affects us and what creates those smells. So it tends to be like the glue or how the paper is made, and that can release certain smells that then trigger certain reactions in us as people. And you don't get that from like a Kindle or
No.
an iPad.
Not yet. Why? Now that you mentioned it, somebody's going to market it.
The other thing you
Yeah.
consider, because when Alan mentioned that he put a book on CD-ROM, and both of us said, "Oh yeah," way back then. One of the things that a book accomplishes that other forms don't, Kindles, iPads, whatever we're reading, right, is that it's not only cross-platform, it is a stable system. It's a stable platform. So that you can pick up a book that's published in 1795, you can pick up Shakespeare's folios, and you can still read them. It's accessible. If you had all of your products on a CD-ROM, you're SOL. So I think that's a piece of it's that the book is, quote, timeless, and I think that it'll continue to be so. So I think that's the other thing to consider.
I mean, today we're reading documents that were written 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. Some of them were made on a clay tablet with a stick. Some of them are in octopus ink. But we're still reading what people wrote down. And, today you have a book and you look away from it in a public place, it's unlikely to disappear. Look away from your Kindle or your laptop in a public place.
What we need to have is a little smell a Kindle. So when you open it, you get a little puff of old book smell. And you can select your range of smells. It'd be like wet book from the garage smell.
You're going to make this really complex, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm just thinking with the way technology is, it'd be amazing. You're
familiar with vaping, right?
Yes.
Maybe they should make book flavors for vaping.
What a good idea!
There you go.
Mind you, that would
so you can smell intellectual, if you're not behaving intellectually.
Exactly.
But then that would just get into a very strange realm, especially for the romance and erotic writers. I think.
Oh, you think you could go in a bad place fast, which you just did.
I know. That's what you expect. I don't know. Anyway. So, yes. I've got a note here as well that you've got some advice about the difference between slander and libel. And what we asked was why we needed to discuss the difference at all.
I had asked for an author to work on a project with me. Basically, a fictionalized version of the first 8 to 10 months of Caliburn's life. The idea was that anything bad that had happened during that time period would be attributed to an evil spirit, and the book would be a horror.
Right.
And
that's where you're going with that. Okay.
Yeah. One of the former officers of the company, somebody who had voluntarily left us, contacted me and said that he'd read that on the group and that if the book got published, he was going to sue for slander.
Yeah, right.
And he didn't want to hear anything I had to say about it. So I put that up there so that everybody, all authors need to know it once in a while. But this was my way of showing him that he didn't have a leg to stand on.
Mm-hmm. But then slander, I don't know, this is where it gets stupid. If you're going to go and say something to someone and it's true, then they can't really take you for slander, can they?
They can't. But on the other hand, in the U.S. legal system, a lawyer doesn't have to tell the truth when they file documents. So, let's say a book is sold 1,400 copies, and the author wants more money. Their lawyer could say the book is sold 40,000 copies based on information and belief, and that's not a crime. It's not punishable. So we could write a book that doesn't even mention this guy, and he could say, well, they slandered me in the book, and in a civil case, I'd have to prove that I didn't.
What a waste of time. I mean, even with the 40,000 thing, doesn't it become a null issue when you turn around as a business, you keep all of your stats, all of your comings and goings, and you say, well, here's your book when it was released. These are the sales. Here. 3 pages of sales. There you go. Doesn't add up to 40,000. Where's the others coming from?
Let me tell you that with the 40,000 thing, I had the distributor send records to the opposing attorney, then to the court, and I still ended up making a 6-hour drive and appearing in court the next morning.
Wow.
So-
So in the face of facts, they didn't change their opinion.
Exactly.
But then, I don't know. My brain's hurting now because then you can stand there in front of a judge and you're like, "Hey, judge, I sent this to them." The judge is going to go, "Well, clearly they didn't sell 40,000. Get out of here. Next, I've got a murderer up next who actually
Well,
killed
that's
someone."
what happened, but I still ended up paying for 6 hours worth of gas, sitting in Chicago for 3 hours, and then paying for a hotel.
Is this where then it gets ridiculous? Because then some people say, "Well,
Yes.
I'm countersuing you to cover my costs of being here." And it just goes round and round and round. Oh,
Yeah, that
I
doesn't
think
work.
it can.
lawyers.
Yeah, lawyers.
Actually, we
No,
should-
some lawyers. There's others that are very good.
there are some lawyers that are very good. Kiara Valentine, just so I don't get sued.
Yeah, you just don't want her to come after you.
No, that's right. 'Cause she likes dragons. She writes
So
about
what
them.
what do you see, Alan? What do you've got? You kind of got a grip on Caliburn Press. What are some of your plans? What are you going to do moving forward as the publisher of fine novels and nonfiction everywhere?
Well, we've already set up the website, and we have the first book by awesome authors for Melifuria Press, which is going to be all educational materials. Mostly children's materials, but educational for every age group.
Woohoo!
We've already started working on things for Volmar Press, which is going to be games. We've contracted 5 board games, and we have somebody working on converting the first one so that it can be sold. It's also going to hold game books, like for tabletop RPGs.
Okay.
We're going to start moving everything that's young adult into the new Caliburn Young Adult, or SIA.
Okay.
We're going to phase out Damnation books. No new books are going in there unless they're part of a series. And whenever a book's contract is renewed, it's going to be moved to either Eternal or Ciento Sordida. This is one way we're trying to eliminate barriers to sales.
Okay.
Question for you though, just very quickly.
Yeah.
Melifuria, how'd you come up with that name? Well, how'd that name come about? I mean, it's to do with bees, which I find interesting, like worker bees. Oh, we're little worker bees.
Well, the original concept was that it would have mostly books about professions. A kid's book about being a soldier, a kid's book about being a doctor. So, and we'd also do we'd also do writers' guides about the profession. So basically, an actor, an author, a tabletop gamer could get one of these writers' guides and know how to create the character who has that profession. So it was originally all about work and jobs, so worker bees. And then we later decided to expand it a little further.
And that's where we come in, so you can grow up and be a podcaster because we have a book on it.
Yes.
Big
Which is-
money, just saying.
It's looking like your book is going to be the very first one in Melifuria.
That's
Yay.
either a very good thing or a very bad thing. I remember kicking off this show, episode 1, with saying, "Welcome to the Newbie Writers Podcast. The first is the worst." So, yes, you can only improve from there, can't you?
Well, your book is certainly not our first.
So there you go.
It'll just be the first one to get this logo.
Excellent. Well, I've just had someone message me who's listening saying, podcaster, don't quit your day job.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not going to quit my day job. Thank you very much. There's not much in podcasting, but anyway. So,
Is this your day job?
No.
Nope.
Oh, God.
Listen to both of us. No.
No, the bank doesn't really give you a mortgage if you sat down and they said, "What's your profession?" And you go, "I talk to a microphone for 2 hours once a week."
And they say, that's lovely. What else do you got?
Double check. Yes.
They also don't give you a business loan if you own a publishing company with 7 imprints and almost 1,000 books.
Really?
They're so picky
Really?
now.
Yeah. I wouldn't give you a loan if you're like, well, I'm just about to set up one and I don't have anything else. But maybe if you'd come there going, well, I've got 7, at least it's working. I don't know. So how'd you come about
Doing
there?
it.
Because you acquired the publisher that Catherine was originally with. How did that come about? And what's involved with that?
The acquisitions manager for Damnation Books is Erin Lale, and her and I had been Facebook friends for quite some time. She's also friends with the previous owners. When they went looking for somebody to hand the company over to, she suggested me and then asked me if I was interested. And, well, I was interested.
So, but then, what do you do? I've never had to take over a company or anything before. Do you start to look at it and go, okay, I'm happy to take this over, but... And then the axe starts to go...
First, we had a contract, okay, which we sent it back and forth several times, making changes until we were both happy. And the contract spelled out what would be transferred, what responsibilities there were, what the price was, all of this.
Okay.
Once that was done, and one of the things we included in it was a timeline. So I had to go and purchase a business license in the name of the new company, which is Caliburn Press. I had to go to the IRS website and get a employer identification number attached to the name Caliburn Press. Then, with the information from these two things, we could start transferring the accounts. Previous owners went through and cleaned up the accounts, removed any books that weren't supposed to be on them or that would be expiring soon, and then told the company with each account, Amazon, CreateSpace, LSI, each of them, okay, we're transferring to this guy. And then my wife had to go and set up the new bank information and work with getting everything transferred over to us. It was a kind of a long process.
That sounds...
Meanwhile, we needed to set up new Yahoo groups, and I needed to build some rapport with the authors, and I needed to meet the editors, I needed to meet at least some of the artists. At certain points, I had to replace officers who had voluntarily left the company. I was sent information like the author information form, which after some time I modified. We're using one that has more information, looks a bit nicer, and allows us to track who's touched the book.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
I had to create a new contract for authors. And so new authors use the new contract, and anybody with a contract from the old company can switch over to the new contract at any time. However, to make things easy, we are honoring the old company's contracts.
Right. That's just like a lot of... You'd be drowning in paperwork, surely.
Oh, I am. I'm in the process of making a list of every book on every platform that the company has, including the publication date, the ISBN number, the author's name, and a bunch of other information about them. And even with help from our computer guy, this is going to take me a long time because there are so many of them.
I don't know. I would just like to think that in an ideal world, you just rock up to a governing body and you say, I'm taking over this company. And they're like, well, here's the 3 bits of paper. Sign it, get them to sign it. Bam, it's yours.
3 bits of paper.
But yes.
Yeah, but no job is finished until the paperwork's done.
Oh, paperwork.
It has been. I mean, just because I was one of the original, I had been with Eternal Press, and so I've watched you go through this process and stay in touch with the authors and stay in touch with what's going on. It has been. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, because it has been a massive project for you, and you've taken on quite quite a thing, quite a behemoth. And I love the new contracts, so I really appreciate that. And I know that we went back and forth with Damien and me, but I think you're trying to be really fair and really support authors.
I'm trying to, yes.
Well,
Authors are the most important part of the business.
Yeah, and you put up with a lot. There's, for our listeners who don't know, Alan set up a Yahoo group, and so authors can, Alan can talk to authors or just post something, and then people will weigh in on it. And we have a couple, and I can say this because I'm not Alan, but we have a couple of authors who apparently do not have day jobs and spend whole lot of time on this Yahoo groups, and everybody's got this, I'm sure, in every business on the planet Earth. But they have way too much time complaining about things that so don't matter in the long run. And I read these lengthy tirades, and I think, oh, poor Alan. And you answer them so nicely, and you don't you don't hit back. And I wanted to let you know I appreciate that, because I've seen so much go through on this list, and then all I can think of is wow, authors are really difficult.
Yeah, some authors are temperamental, and some are just mental.
Yeah.
and that's
And
why
some of them work for Damnation Press, so there we go.
and that's why I'm not on that Yahoo group.
No, you do not want to be, really, trust me, I will take this piece for us. Do not go on that Yahoo group, Damien. That's because you'll express yourself, and that's not going to end well.
Well, I had to be very professional with a client. Well, I don't know if it was a client. It was just a PE teacher at a school.
PE teacher. Yeah. It's kind of a client, but a PE teacher.
No, yeah, well, we were doing some work for the school, but this guy was hanging around a lot. And he kept coming in every 20 minutes to try and talk to me. And it was really distracting. And no word of a lie, he actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Can I have a word with you for a minute?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, what's up?" He's like, "I need to show you something." I'm like, "Okay." He took me over to a door and said, "Now this door has a handle on one side and a handle on the other. So when you shut it, you can just use the handle." And I'm staring at him going, "Are you for real right now?" And he says, "Yes, so then when you leave, you can shut the door."
No.
And I actually scratched my head and said, "I am familiar with how doors work." He said, "Well, I just thought I'd let you know." And then he wandered off. And both my employees are staring at me like, "What on earth?"
I think I might use that in the next book of fiction I write.
Please do.
Take it. It's totally excellent. Does he teach? What grade does he teach?
Primary.
There you go. Maybe there was a whole door week, and they all learned how to operate doors, and that's where his head was.
I don't know. And then it was just, "Are you aware that it's 3:35? When are you finishing?" I said, 5 o'clock, like normal people. That enough.
You needed to say that.
Yeah. He's like, "Yes." So I just thought it was strange. You just get the odd fruitcake come in, waste my time.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm sure there's that same with the authors. That's why, yes, I won't be on that Yahoo group unless it's required. But yes, I can't keep myself. I'm a bit of a keyboard warrior. I'm just idiot.
It's not required. I like to stay in touch with the feed, so I know generally what's going on. But every time if I see a lot of answers, people chiming in, I think, oh no, I do not have time for this. You go ahead, talk amongst yourselves, literally, and I will move along. Do this project or write another book or whatever I can do with my free time.
See, if someone put a long-winded, whinging post up there, I would just respond with, "It's a nope from me." I don't know. You've got to be a little bit condescending. But it's
just a tad. Sometimes I do, but not often. I tend to just stay out of it. I just lurk. So I'll lurk for you and I'll tell you what's going on.
Yeah, please. And then if they end up in tortured sentences, that's just going to be awkward.
Ooh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good idea.
Maybe we need to get Alan's permission. Be like, "Oh, this came from one of the authors at Damnation Press."
No, you be nice to my authors.
We'll try.
We will. We're always nice. We do not reveal where our tortured sentences come from specifically. In general, we do, but not specifically.
Put it this way. None of Catherine's students ever listen to this show.
So we're good.
So we're all good.
Yep.
I don't know. Now, Is there anything else that we need to cover? Because we've got to go through a prompt and some bits and pieces. Actually, I know what we can do. Alan, quickly. If people would like to submit a manuscript to you or to any of the presses, what's the best way of doing it?
Go to our website, find Erin Lell's email address, and send it to her.
Cool. So the main one, that's Caliburn Press, isn't it?
Yep.
Cool. So
Erin is the acquisitions editor, so she reviews anything sent to us and decides whether or not we're going to accept it.
well, there you go. She is the gatekeeper,
She is
Yes.
a gatekeeper.
who may or may not like chocolate and bribes. But I don't know. Anyway.
You never know.
Well, thank you for being on. Please stick around. We've got a few other things to do.
Okay.
Are you on the Twitter?
No, I'm not.
Why not? Actually,
He has
probably
enough with the Yahoo group, I think. He
This
doesn't
is
need to go
true.
through Twitter, too.
Yeah, that's really it. Is I don't need another time sink.
No.
It is a bit of noise. So other than Yahoo, are you on any other social media? Facebook, that sort of thing?
I'm on Facebook.
Well, there you go. You can track him down. Caliburn Press. I'm sure there's a link on our Newbie site somewhere. Catherine?
Yeah. Once we get everything all lined up and have a product, yes, we'll put it all on our site.
I noticed there was a little... Catherine and I, we noticed a gripe with Facebook. This is partly why I'm not there. For some reason, it was picking up newbiewriters.com as wrong and just linking everything to writers.com, which is great for trying to retain listeners when they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to go and click on Damien's and Catherine's website. Oh, it takes you somewhere else. Anyway,
Well, I should have fixed it unless the glitch is still in place.
I don't know. I'm not on there. Let's do a prompt. Some people like prompts. Let's
All right.
see.
So our prompt is, because we're talking about publication and books, most people think they can do anything. Like, listen to anybody and they'll say, well, I know how to fix a car. It's like, how is that possible? You're a PE teacher. So the old, if I ran the world thinking, well, okay, what if you did run the world? And I'm talking about like dictator for life kind of power, like you don't have to go for re-election or anything. What would you change and what would you implement immediately if you actually did run the world?
Alan, what would you change immediately?
I'd get rid of all forms of inequality immediately.
Very altruistic. That's great.
So-
I was going to eliminate paperwork and at least 50% of all the lawyers.
Right. And transgender toilets.
All you need is a door. I mean, really?
Yes. Anyway, what would I change? I don't know what I would change.
See, that's why it's a good prompt. You have to think about it. What would you, dictator for life? What would you take down? What would you fix? And then it gets more. The more you think about it, the more impossible things start becoming because everything is so intertwined, and there's so much unintended consequences that come from one thing from the next. I think it's a very interesting question.
But then don't you really pick what you change based on other things? So like you'd still go, I might be Kim Jong-un without the nukes.
Yeah,
You
you might. And that's the kind of power you need, because if you want to, quote, change things quickly, you need to be more of a dictator for life. Elected every year, whether, people like it or not, right?
Yeah. That's it. I often think about this when you hear on the news going, oh, so-and-so prime minister's been prime minister for like 400 years of a country. Yeah. And you're thinking, how did they sign up to that? They get voted in, and all of a sudden they make this change that goes, well, we're going to get rid of all elections. I'm just going to be it until I die. Oh, okay, sure, tick.
That's how they do it. It's like the Monty Python moment where they talk about the king, and the comment is, who's the king? I didn't vote for him.
Yeah. Elections. I don't know. I think it's a bit hard for me to think of something off the top of my head. The Australian lifestyle is, very much like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Or I'll have a crack, as they say. Have a crack at that.
I think if we're going to have a dictator for life, perhaps an Australian would be a good choice then.
Yeah.
With that attitude, it's like, I don't know, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I could picture that. Some world leader that gets asked the question going, how are we going to deal with the unrest in, I don't know, Iraq? It's like, oh no, how hard can it be? Let's go in there. We'll sort it out. We'll have a barbecue and a couple of beers and we'll sort it out like real men.
The way you deal with unrest is you get rid of the reasons why people have unrest.
Yeah, that's right. And
You
it
know,
comes
if
back to religion.
people who are so desperately poor that they see terrorism as their only way out of poverty, let's give them jobs, provide for their needs.
And go from there. You know what I read though that I find very entertaining? Probably not for them, but in the core camps in Syria with ISIS or IS, because I like ISIS as a goddess. But the women who they had brought over and they're going to be part of the glorious revolution are leaving because they are tired of cooking over fires and dealing with primitive conditions that have been inflicted on them, and they're leaving. They're going. It's like, sorry guys, I'm going where there's electricity. It's been a blast, so to speak, and they're out. I'm thinking, it's really going to be hard to reproduce and create a society if all the girls have gone.
Yes.
And I just think that's funny.
Yes, you end up with the Roman army thing all over again.
Yes, you do. And we're not sorry either.
No, but that is kind of interesting to think about, though, that they're all thinking, oh, yes, we're going to fight for our freedom. Oh, my iPhone's flat. Yeah, I'm out. I'm going to go. I need to charge my phone.
That's right.
Snapchat's down. Time to leave.
Time to go. That was the worst weekend of my life.
The Wi-Fi
When
sucks on
millennials
this.
go to war.
Wi-Fi sucks on this sand dune.
Right.
And then further to that, in medieval times you've got when they had war and they'd always have the water carriers and the people doing that and the cooks. Would war in the future be? Yeah, you'd have all of the people there fighting away, and there'd be a guy with a coffee cart going, "Okay, would you like a mocha latte?"
Well, I suspect
That's a Monty Python moment as well. A little Starbucks truck following the camp.
Well, I suspect that before too much longer, it's going to be like we do drones now. The fighting is going on in this part of the world, but the guy controlling all the equipment is in a different part, and in an air-conditioned, darkened room. And sure, bring the coffee in there.
There you go.
And the gluten-free bagel.
Yeah, the gluten-free bagel.
But
that's a good point. There's so much more remote. That's an interesting point. So you don't. Although then you go to the other side where it's like if you don't feel the war, if you're not like on the ground, then it doesn't become that difficult, quote unquote, anymore. And how does that change how you approach violence and takeovers and everything else? It's great. This is why I like science fiction. You can come up with all this stuff and speculate.
Someone needs to write like a speculative war fiction where they do with a comedy aspect, where there is someone going, look, I'm gluten intolerant. I don't want to die on the battlefield with the runs. I'm vegetarian. Oh, please. Anyway.
So I'm glad that was a good prompt.
Yes, let's do a tortured sentence.
All right.
Next time, don't put the Roman farces on the right syllable. Tortured sentences. Now that was actually a voicemail I got sent from one of Alan's publishing houses, from their editor of our book.
After she took one look at our manuscript.
Yeah, rang me up, screaming, don't put the right and fastest on the wrong syllable. Now, this is from The World According to Student Bloopers from Richard Lederer at St. Paul's School. The government of England was a limited mockery. Yeah, right. Was. So they're okay now.
They're okay now.
How would you fix that? I don't think you could.
I didn't vote for the king.
Yes. Anyway, so that was short and sweet. I'm sure Rob will weigh into that. I think he's over there in the UK. He can let me know if they still have limited mockery.
There you go.
All right. Word of the week. Did you want to do the word of the week? Or shall I?
Sure. This is a dictionary. This is from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. And it is amiibo.
No, not amiibo. That's a Nintendo thing. Ambedo?
Ambedo?
Yeah,
That
there's a
sounds
D in
better.
it.
This is why we give you this job.
Jeez. Oh, we should do name of the week and have you try and pronounce a name.
No, we should. That's the whole show.
Oh, you know,
All right. It's a kind of melancholic trance in which you become completely absorbed in vivid sensory details. Raindrops skittering down a window, tall trees leaning in the wind, clouds of cream swirling in your coffee, briefly soaking in the experience of being alive, an act that is done purely for its own sake.
also known as crystal meth.
Oh, I saw on Facebook, there's a beautiful picture of a glazed donut, and it says, now remember, this is better than crystal meth.
Yes. And doesn't kill you. Well, it does over time, but yes.
Well, it does, but just not as fast. It's not as efficient.
God, someone could draw so many parallels between sugar and meth. Anyway, you lose your teeth, stay up all night, and you die. All right, well, that'll do it for this week. Thank you for being on, Alan. Who have we got on next week?
Thank you for having me.
Chrissy Langwell, and she is an author and a publisher, and she is also a member of the National Women's Book Association. So that's how I know her, and I'm having her on the show.
Cool. All right.
Cool.
Well, until next week.
Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
Until next week, we'll see you then.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.